Good evening, Rams. I'm Ren Wadsworth. Thank you for joining me for the second installment of Right Now with Ren. Tonight we'll be discussing free speech on Colorado State University's campus. I'll start off the night by diving into the history of free speech on campus before moving into its current standing. Stay tuned to hear the community's thoughts on free speech, including the Dean of Students and a reporter from the Collegian. All this and more on Right Now with Ren, which starts right now. Free speech was admitted into the United States Constitution in 1787. The First Amendment states Congress shall make no law, quote, prohibiting free exercise thereof or abridging freedom of speech. Despite it being the First Amendment written, freedom of speech has been discussed and debated about for years. This includes Colorado State University. The path to fostering a free speech environment has been a long, hard-fought one for CSU. Many of the difficulties may come from a misunderstanding of what protected speech is. Protected speech allows for all thoughts and ideas to be shared equally. What may be considered as hate speech to some is still guarded under free speech. The university states they encourage all at CSU to express their freedom of speech and right to assembly in the school's catalog, but add that speech is only protected if it does not disturb university functions or directly endanger the well-being of others. This support of students' rights wasn't always the case, though. Less than 20 years ago, students urged admin to change 3 policies at the school they found unconstitutional. After protests across the school in 2007, the board complied and altered the peaceful assembly policy to state that free speech is welcome across CSU's campus, not just on the plaza. Along with amendments to the advertisements policy and the hate incidents policy, both which made efforts to protect students from hate speech. While Colorado State University as a whole now stands for freedom of speech, there is still one side on campus that symbolizes uninhibited conversation. The plaza in front of the Laurie Student Center encourages university departments, students, organizations, and individuals, and even community members to occupy the space and share their thoughts. What cements the plaza as a safe space for speech is the Stump. The aptly named tree stump is called CSU home since 1964. It invites anyone who wishes to stand upon it and say what they want. The Stump was originally purchased and placed at the school for less than $5 by 2 Collegian reporters. It was meant to signify that students at CSU have the power to speak up and make change if they only step up and do it. Some feel the Stump may still stand for free speech it was placed here for, but others, like Collegian reporter Bella Ekberg, think of it more as a memory than a current symbol. Bella has joined us in the studio tonight to discuss free speech and at CSU. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. So I understand you wrote an article about the tree stump, actually.
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you, why do you think that the tree stump may no longer stand for freedom of speech?
I think our concept of what freedom of speech means has changed a lot. I don't think that the 2 original Collegian reporters that put it there could have anticipated how things have changed over the years through technology, through mass communication, and I think now a lot of free speech arguments can take place online, which is a little harder to pick through because it's important to protect everybody's rights to free speech while also maintaining a balance of keeping conspiracy, things like that at bay from like misinformation, while also keeping people accountable for what they say, because freedom of speech isn't always freedom from consequences. You can say what you want, but there has to be something there to ensure that we're all being heard and not stamping down other people's voices.
Right. And speaking of those consequences, how have you felt the administration's decisions regarding hate speech have impacted CSU?
I think that the bias reporting is a good step. I think that it's important to allow people that feel as though they've been negatively affected by free speech on campus to feel heard by the university. I also think that the university, in my opinion, has done a good job of allowing free speech to take place on the plaza. And at times when it's been disruptive, it's stayed true to its ideas and of keeping things up, still a productive environment, and still allowing that to happen while also doing what a school does, which is like educating and helping things move. Really?
Yeah. Do you think that the bias reporting they've recently instilled in the school is enough to give resources to students?
I think it's hard. I think that ideally it is a step in the right direction, and it is going to encourage students to report without feeling as though they might be attacked or disparaged for doing so. But you know, free speech has changed so much since when the Stump first was bought to put on campus. And, you know, a lot of free speech arguments, if they're happening online, it's hard to maintain accountability and make sure that people are aware of the impact that they have.
Right. I wanted to ask if you personally had any ideas how the university, I know it's going to be a big question, how the university could possibly create an environment where students felt they could express their freedom of speech, but also not be impacted by that hate speech, and making sure that the university maintains the mental and physical well-being of the students.
I think there just needs, like, bottom line to be open communication and transparency about how they're dealing with things, and when things come up where the university does need to address situations, that it does so with clarity, with respect, with patience, and keeps the students informed on what's happening, because that's the only way that we can all foster an environment that supports people's opinions and allows them to practice their freedom of speech while also, you know, maintaining ability and kindness on our campus.
That was my last question, but I did want to ask you if you had any final thoughts you wanted to share or anything we didn't touch on.
I don't think so. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your thoughts.
Of course.
Stay tuned, because after the break, I'll dive into one student-led organization that is dedicated to standing for free speech.
So there you are,
I like...
shuffling through a stack of resumes, and you come to mine. This is it. First impression. My way in. But here's the thing. Can my resume show you how I truly stand out? Can one piece of paper really tell you my whole story? Like that I was studying, going to night school while working 2 jobs just to help my parents pay for groceries. Or how anytime there was an opportunity, I was the first one to step up, because I wasn't gonna let my life, my circumstances dictate who I was gonna become. And all of that determination, commitment, drive, that's me. And that's something you just can't put on paper. Look beyond the resume, discover new ways to develop great talent, like me.
Welcome back from the break, Rams. Speaking freely may seem like a simple concept at the surface, but as we have seen in previous years, it has caused riots, vandalism, and other extreme acts of protest. Mike Hooker, Executive Director of Public Relations at CSU, sat down with me and explained some of the difficulties faced by staff when making decisions surrounding free speech.
Just acknowledge that these are complicated issues. I mean, The First Amendment is something that's challenged all the way up to the Supreme Court across the country, and it's been, these are tough issues to grapple with, and so the fact that on this campus we're figuring out how to move forward and how to deal with these complicated issues makes perfect sense, right? This matters deeply to people. It's very important to our country, and of course to our campus. And so I think the fact that we're having this conversation is super important. It is not surprising, and we'll all be better for it, especially if everyone really takes the time to understand what it really means to have free speech, and then what it really means to use that responsibly and constructively.
Even though admin have experienced their fair share of backlash, they are using it as an opportunity to receive feedback from students and offer information and help in return. At the beginning of the spring semester, students may have noticed signs littered across campus. The green board station, mainly near the Laurie Student Center, offered resources for those who had been negatively affected by speech on campus. This may have been in response to recent student complaints and protests that CSU administration were allowing hate speech at the campus. However, shortly after the introduction of the signs, Turning Point USA of the Rockies accused the school of being intolerant to conservative groups. Additionally, a conservative watchdog site called Campus Report received several emails in 2019 where students expressed anger over a message from CSU's president. In Joyce McConnell's email, she included an event with Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk and a list with other recent racially charged events on campus. This included students posting an online picture wearing blackface and a swastika being painted on the side of a dormitory. Despite the backlash from conservative groups, CSU has stuck its course as the free speech resource boards remain standing. Dean of Students Craig Chasen believes these signs are a way for administration to communicate with the student body. With the array of links to choose from, the dean hopes an environment of understanding and compassion comes from it.
I think as an institution, too, we have a responsibility to offer support and offer for individuals who are offended, and not only explain, but seek avenues where they find that support. Because there's formal, there could be counseling, it could be other student support services, but the individual may find their support in their mentor, other areas.
Sometimes there's a disconnect between faculty and students in school environments. This can be caused by a difference of experiences, changing social norms, or even an age gap. But retroactive planning on the administration's part with students in mind may help solve some of the issues that stem from this disconnect. One notable issue with free speech in recent memory was with religious speech in the fall of 2021. The Laurie Student Center Plaza, while usually a celebratory place of welcoming and open beliefs, experienced the exact opposite. Differences in ideologies quickly degraded into hate speech targeted at some members of the student body, causing midday protests and eyes towards the administration. The university sent out an email during the incident in which they wrote that the university could not legally disinvite these members. It also went on to read, "We encourage you to learn how to challenge, advocate, demonstrate, and disagree to unpopular opinions in a way that moves public discourse forward." It seems Rams are still working for a more inclusive university, and one of the first steps is for students who speak out against injustices and push staff to make systematic change.
When do we want it? Now!
Nearly a year ago, the Free Speech Plaza was put to use as hundreds of CSU students met for the Call Out CSU March. Head speaker for the event, Ty Smith, emphasized why he believed peaceful protests like this are important for CSU.
There's been a lot of bias and homophobia and racism, etc. on campus, and so we kind of created it as a way of creating awareness for other groups that may not understand what we're going through as a community.
We haven't seen another march on CSU's campus since Call Out CSU, but does that mean their goals were achieved? I reconnected with Ty to see if he thinks the climate around CSU has changed.
There's a lot of things I think that people don't really realize about what happens on campus, just because a lot of the time it'll just occur to these specific calls, and that's who we'll specifically talk to and give them support. But it's not like hey campus, this is what's happening. There's a lot of things that happen, I would say, in the climate of our students that a lot of people don't know.
While on the surface it may seem similar to years prior, Ty has some plans for his own how to foster an environment for free speech that doesn't impact students negatively.
A big portion of the conversation is what's the difference between hate speech and harassment, I would say. Because the moment you can clearly define both and go about any incident that does regard freedom of speech on campus is when you're going to be able to start being like, oh, like, this is harassment. This is occurring multiple times. They're going out of their way to commit these acts. That would become harassment, and that's when we can kind of be like, oh, okay, they need to be held accountable. But if they're like just saying one random thing, just being ignorant, then it's just more hate speech, which is legal here in CSU.
When I sat down with administrative staff, they reported they personally try to meet with students who have felt the negative effects of free speech. Through these discussions, campus viewpoints are expressed and admin is able to form plans for the future. One current plan in the work aims to create a faculty council focusing on free speech issues.
You know, the committee consists of faculty members, students, administrators, and staff, and all the opinions, and people who've been here for a while who really understand the context of what the university recently has gone through and wanting to improve from an awareness standpoint.
The future task force was developed by President McConnell to ensure policies and decisions made at the school align with CSU guidelines. As the council begins to take shape, only time will tell how effective the new group will be at solving systematic issues faced by students every day. And with that, Rams, that concludes tonight's edition of Right Now with Ren. Don't go anywhere, though. Emily Kozel is right up next to fill you in on CSU softball and lacrosse.
Awkward. Do I look familiar? I should. You might remember me from here. Here. Or maybe even here.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
It can actually be a perfect moment to reach out to a friend and ask if they're okay if they seem down.
It doesn't matter how you say it.
You all right?
Everything's okay?
All G?
You all right, girl? You cool?
You bugging dog.
Just show you're there for them.
Go on, Kelly. CZ awkward.
Hey, you haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
What's up, Ram fans? Welcome back to your weekly Tuesday night sports wrap-up. I'm your host, as always, Emily Kozel. Now, tonight I have plenty to talk about in the world of CSU softball, and for the first time this semester, and probably this year, Rams lacrosse. So let's just get right into the action. Starting on Friday, CSU softball will be returning to campus to face off against the New Mexico Lobos in a 3-game series right here at home in the friendly confines of Ram Field. And after a brutal weekend down in Logan where the Rams were only able to earn 1 run over 3 games against Utah State, hopefully the green and gold can switch up their luck and really their entire performance here a little bit with this new opportunity and pull out at least 1 win in front of the home fans. I know that would make me feel a lot better after how embarrassing their trip to USCU was. But unfortunately for the Rams, the buzzsaw that this conference is shaping up to be just keeps on coming, with New Mexico looking, at least on paper, like a more well-rounded squad than CSU. Let's take a look at why. When you just take a quick look at their record, it looks like the Lobos are currently sitting real pretty when it comes to the rest of the conference, with an overall record of 21-14, which is obviously significantly better than the Green and Gold's mediocre, and some might even call it below average, 11-19 mark. But honestly, when you look a little deeper, it isn't just CSU that's been having quite a bit of trouble on the field recently. I mean, New Mexico comes into this one fresh off a 2-game losing streak of their own at the hands of the BYU Cougars up in Provo. including a 17-1 loss on Friday. Oh, and when you look at how they've done in the conference, they've also had similar luck against the Aggies and even lost to San Jose State twice, who, as we told you last week, the Rams actually swept. So needless to say, there's a lot more that meets the eye with the Lobos squad, and as you can see, they definitely aren't as good as their record shows. And honestly, I can't even confidently put them ahead of CSU at this point in terms of who's the better team, with how terrible they've looked recently. Something we'll have to give come this weekend, I mean, that's for sure. So we'll have to see who can pick themselves up off the mat and earn some much-needed wins. And speaking of this weekend, someone to look out for on the diamond has to be Peyton Allen for the Rams. As Ella filled you in on yesterday, number 23 was the only player to earn an RBI all weekend against Utah State. And I expect her to be the difference at the plate for this green and gold offense come Friday. And now on to the other side of the mound. Andrea Howard has been putting in some work for New Mexico as of late. The star center fielder and batter for the Lobos proves time and time again that she is not to be messed with. And last week, she was even able to break the Lobos school record for total home runs, with 40 over the course of her career. Now that's pretty amazing. Oh, and did I forget to mention that she played on Italy's Olympic softball team just this past Olympics? Yeah, she's pretty next level. Look, all I'm trying to say is that even though they look just as bad as the Rams do right now, CSU still definitely needs to bring their A game this weekend if they want any chance of taking the series. You just never know what kind of New Mexico team you're going to get. And man, is that scary as a Rams fan. If you want to see how all of these unknowns will shake out, you can, of course, show up to Ram Field on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon to catch the action in person, or you can watch from home on the Mountain West Network. Either way, we'll be sure to update you on how it all goes right as it happens here at CTV Sports. And with that, now let's switch gears and talk about one of my personal favorite sports to watch, men's lacrosse. And in this case, a look at how our club squad here at CSU has been doing up to this point and how they stack up as they head into April. Now, in case you weren't aware, CSU's club lacrosse team plays in the Division I section of the Rocky Mountain Lacrosse Conference. Now, they're currently coming off a bye week, but as they posted on Instagram, they are grinding hard at practice and seem very excited to get off into the next game. Now, they were recently ranked 18th in the D1 poll for Week 6 teams, which is pretty impressive. And this week, on Saturday, they will be heading up to Minnesota to take on the one and only Michigan State. Now, CSU currently has an 8-3 record, and I'm hoping that they can turn it into a 9-3 record. And I honestly think they can. Currently, the attack has been doing some amazing things, and the leading scorer right now is Cole Cobrer, averaging 2.8 points per game. I mean, this is pretty impressive, and there are a lot of other guys on the team putting up similar numbers, but Cole currently has 25 goals throughout his career at CSU. I mean, he's played in 23 games, so you got to give it to him. On the other end, though, Michigan State is currently 6-2. Now, Michigan is pretty good when it comes to defense, and their goalie is not to be messed with. The goalie is Connor Maude, and in the first week alone, he had 30 saves. I mean, that's just a lot. Michigan State recently also beat Purdue, who is not a bad team, and this got them onto their 6th game winning in a row. They have a 6-game win streak. Now, that's pretty impressive, and one of their players to watch is Connor Hamilton. I mean, he currently has 4 goals of his own and 7 assists. So not only can he shoot, but the boy can pass as well. So, I mean, I really don't know how the game's going to shape up, but I can't wait to watch, and I hope you all will watch as well. So, Ram fans, that's all the action I have for you tonight. Tune in tomorrow for local beats and, of course, those long-awaited ASCSU election results. Thanks for watching, and from Ren and I both, we hope you have a wonderful night.